So what really happens when you file a complaint about, say, weird bank fee or an error on your credit report? You hit send, and it seems like it just vanishes into thin air. Well, it doesn't. Today, we're going to dig into this massive pile, over 600,000 of those very complaints, to see what secrets they spill when you finally start connecting the dots. And let me tell you, the discoveries are probably not what you'd expect.
All right, so here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll tackle the sheer size of this data mountain. Then, we'll look at how a little digital wizardry brought some serious order to all that chaos. After that, we get to the really good stuff, the surprising patterns that were just hiding there in plain sight. And finally, we'll tie it all together and see what it really means for you and me. Let's jump in.
So, first things first, let's just try to get our heads around the scale of the challenge here. We are not talking about a filing cabinet. We're talking about an absolute mountain of data, all landing on the desk of a single agency, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or the CFPB.
Yeah, you see that right. In just 5 years, between 2011 and 2016, more than 600,000 individual complaints came pouring in. That's hundreds every single day. It's like a constant tidal wave of consumer feedback. How on earth is anyone supposed to make sense of all that? And smack in the middle of this whole storm is the CFPB. It's their job to be the referee, right? To take every single one of these complaints, get them over to the right financial companies, and make sure that people are being treated fairly through the whole process.
Now, if you look at it on paper, the process seems pretty simple. You complain, the bureau sends it on, the company responds. It's a nice, neat, step-by-step flow. And that's great for one complaint. But now, try to imagine that same flow with a backlog of 600,000. Suddenly, you're just treading water, managing a flood. You completely lose sight of the bigger picture.
So, how do you find the trends that are hidden inside that flood? Well, you have to stop treating the data like a random pile of files and start treating it like a library, a place where everything has its own spot, it's all organized, and it's just ready for you to explore.
And the technical term for this is a data warehouse. But don't let that boring name fool you. This is not just some bigger hard drive. It's that perfectly organized library we were talking about, where every little piece of information is cataloged so you can ask it some really smart, complex questions.
Turns out you can build this kind of digital library in two main ways. There's the slow, steady, top-down approach, and then there's the fast, flexible, bottom-up way. The researchers here chose the agile bottom-up approach, and that was a game changer. It meant a small team could get started right away, focusing on answering specific, urgent questions instead of getting stuck trying to build a perfect system for everything all at once.
Okay, so the library is designed, but how do you actually get all of those messy, raw complaints from the floor onto the shelves all neat and organized? Well, it all happens with this pretty cool three-step process called ETL.
Think of it like a librarian's daily work. First, you extract all the raw complaints, just scoop them all up. Then comes the really critical step, transform. This is like the cleanup crew. They standardize everything, turning messy yes or no answers into clean ones and zeros. Finally, you load all that pristine, organized data into the warehouse, where it's ready for some serious analysis.
All right, now this is where things get really interesting. With everything finally organized, the analysts could stop just managing data and start asking the big questions. And the patterns they found, they're pretty fascinating.
So, first off, the data confirms something we probably all suspected. The web is king. Nearly 2/3 of all complaints are filed online. That's a super clear signal that for most of us, the first stop when we have a problem is our keyboard. But get this, here's the first real surprise. You'd probably think an online form gets a way faster response than an old-fashioned letter, right? Well, the data says, nope. The system is incredibly fair. It doesn't matter how you file your complaint. Your chance of getting a timely response is over 95% across the board. And when you dig a little deeper, you see it's really all about complexity. A super straightforward issue like I can't get my credit report, that gets a timely response almost 100% of the time. But a more complicated fight over fees, the probability drops, and that makes sense. It just takes more human brain power to sort it out. The data also shows us a really clear pattern in our own behavior. We overwhelmingly file complaints during the work week with a big spike right in the middle of the week. It's like dealing with our financial headaches is a task we save for our Tuesday lunch break, not for a relaxing Sunday.
Okay, so these patterns are cool for sure. But this isn't just a bunch of trivia.
What's the real-world impact of turning all this messy data into clean, understandable intelligence?
This right here is the whole point. It's about having the power to be proactive instead of just being reactive. With this kind of insight, financial companies can see exactly where their services are failing people. The CFPB can write smarter rules. The entire system can get better, because now decisions are based on actual data, not just guesswork.
And that really is the ultimate goal here, using all this data not just to understand what happened in the past, but, as the researchers put it, to build models that can predict the likelihood of future problems. Just imagine fixing issues before they even become widespread complaints.
At the end of the day, this whole project is just an incredible case study in finding clarity in chaos. It proves that when we take the time to organize our data, we can unlock some truly powerful insights. And it leaves us with a pretty big question. If this is what we can learn from a bunch of public financial complaints, what other amazing patterns are just hiding in the data that surrounds our own lives, waiting to be discovered?